So welcome everybody. It's great having you here. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to post the results of this poll so we can all see this. I'm going to share the results, and so we can see that 48% have never used ST Math. So that's almost a majority of people, and other people have had some experience with it. So it's good to know. That helps us know who's here today. And just want to say hi to everybody. Welcome to the webinar on ST Math. I'm Kenneth Chin. I'm the coordinator of instructional technology. And I just want to say a few words before we get started. But before I do, I want to welcome and introduce you to the panelists today. The facilitator of today's webinar is going to be Mead Greenberg of Mind Research and Alyssa Ching of Mind Research, who will be helping to answer questions. And Mead is going to be facilitating today. Hi, Mead, and hi, Alyssa.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
So great to have you here. Before I hand it over to Mead, I just want to say just a little bit about ST Math. You know, I've never actually been a huge fan of leaning too much on ed tech content-based programs. And when I was a second grade teacher at Chabelle Elementary, we had a license to ST Math. And honestly, I wasn't that interested. But we had a Wednesday afternoon PD, and someone from Mind Research came in and did an ST Math demo. And I was actually pretty impressed because I liked the fact that ST Math uses games that are really aligned to math standards. And, you know, kids love video games. So I decided to give it a try, and it was actually a big hit with my students. But the thing that really won me over with ST Math was that it led to a breakthrough for one of my students. And this student, when he came to my classroom at the beginning of the year, he was reading at early kindergarten level. And in math, about the only thing that he knew how to do was add numbers with sums up to 10. And I realized pretty quickly that he had no understanding or very little understanding of place value. And you know, if you don't get place value, then you can't get very far in second grade math because you're doing 2-digit, 3-digit addition and subtraction. But this student did love video games, and he was willing to give ST Math a try. And one day he was doing ST Math, and he was getting frustrated, and he was saying, "I hate the stupid game." So I just sat down next to him, and I just encouraged him to keep trying. And it was this game where he had to capture spaceships in groups of 10. And right before my eyes, I saw this student all of a sudden just start to understand groups of 10 and place value. And he said, "Oh, Mr. Chan, I get it now, I get it." And that was the beginning of him being able to do the same things in math that his classmates could do. And that student's in the 4th grade now, and I'm hearing that he's totally rocking it in math. Okay, so true story. And what led to this ST Math breakthrough for this student are a lot of the same things that I think make ST Math so popular in OUSD. It's engaging, it's fun, it's standards aligned, and maybe most importantly, it uses very little verbal language. And that's a great equalizing factor for students who are English language learners or have learning differences. And right now, while we're physically separated from students and we can't be there with them, we need learning activities that students will actually want to do on their own. Now, I just want to say, somebody sent me an email last night, a teacher, and very good question, said, "Do you think that we should just shift over from our current math curriculum over to ST Math?" And I said, no, I would never actually advocate just dropping your established math curriculum in favor of ST Math, because ST Math is supposed to be supplemental, and it reinforces and it lets students practice. And the thing is that a lot of kids actually enjoy ST Math, and they'll do it without anybody making them do it. So you could have your students do ST Math alongside your current math activities. You could also offer it as a may do. And ST Math has great tools to monitor progress so you can see what your students are doing. Okay, so that's my plug for ST Math. And just as a reminder, as Mead is facilitating, please use the Q&A feature down at the bottom of your screen. And Alyssa will be working on answering some of those questions, and Mead will loop back later to answer any other questions that we need answered. Okay, so Mead, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Kenneth. I got chills hearing you tell that story again. I've heard it before, but I just love it, and I think it really captures what's possible. for a lot of students in mathematics when they sort of see something just totally unlocked. So I'm really happy to hear that. And I'm really happy to see so many people here that are brand new to ST Math. I think it's an exciting time for you all to get to try this program. So without further ado, we can get started. So I'm going to turn my camera off. I just wanted to say hello, but it saves bandwidth for me. So I'm going to stop my video. But that's me. A little bit of a sleep deprived moment for me, but I'm the presenter, and my chat monitor is Alyssa. She's turned her camera off too, but we're both here to help you learn more about ST Math. So for today, the agenda is this. So we're going to talk about Mind Research Institute, which is the creator of ST Math, and kind of why we do what we do. We're going to tell you about ST Math. What is it? What are some of the hallmarks of the program that make it so powerful? I'll show you the student experience. So what your students will see when they log in to ST Math, how they will access ST Math. Then we'll take a look at some of the things for you as teachers. So what does the console look like? What kind of information do you have there? What kind of control do you have there? And then some supporting resources that can help you during this distance learning phase. So to start with, I just want to share with you our mission statement as an organization. So we are a nonprofit research institute based out of Irvine, California. And this is our mission statement: to ensure that all students are mathematically equipped to solve the world's most challenging problems. And I think that this is a wonderful mission statement, and it is also just massive. It is so important that our students are not only equipped mathematically and know basic mathematical concepts, but they also develop this problem-solving mentality. And I don't know about you all, but especially right now during this time, I find myself reading the news and looking at graphs and, understanding exponential growth and logarithmic growth and just, how important it is that our kids begin to understand, deeply mathematical concepts so that they can then go out in the world and help us with the major problems that we have and that crop up. So we are really dedicated to this, and problem solving is at the root of what we ask students to do. So as we go through this presentation, I want you to sort of keep in mind that focus on not only mathematics, but on that problem solving mentality. So I want to share with you this problem. This shows up on a standardized test, and I want you to guess not necessarily what the right answer is, but what you think most students choose. So what do you think most 8th graders say choose? And you can type this into the chat. So we got 1, 2 so far. A, 19, 21, C. Okay. Yeah. So most of you are right. The majority of students actually select C or D. So they're looking at these numbers and they see an addition sign and they come up with, high, 19, 20, 21. That's what they see. When we all know that that's, not correct. But what's sad is that really only a quarter of 8th graders and a little over a third of seniors in high school got this answer correct. Now, we know that procedurally it is important to be able to do this type of problem more than just estimate. But what we really want students to be able to do is see the math. So we want them to understand conceptually, what does 7/8 look like and what does 12/13 look like? Those are really actually pretty similar values, and they're both pretty close to 1. So if we're estimating, we should get around 2. And this is important because we need kids to be able to check for reasonableness of their answer. So it obviously is not reasonable to imagine two numbers that are close to 1 to add up to 19 or 21. So knowing that we want kids to see the math, visualize it, and really have a deep conceptual understanding, how do we do that? So we're going to show you kind of what it is, but I first want to know a little bit about what have you heard about ST Math? Type something that you already know about it into the chat. So maybe it's something that you've heard from other teachers across the district. The penguin, yep. Absolutely nothing. Okay, great. Visual games. People love it. It's challenging. Access. Great. Some kids don't like it. Some kids do like it. Okay, great. So a lot of you have hit on a lot of things that do sort of stand out as some of the hallmarks of ST Math. So it does not rely heavily on language. So let's take a look at some of the games. And we're going to start with this game. And we're just going to kind of play through it. And I want you to just sort of take a look at the screen and tell me what you notice. Tell me what you see. So this is an example of a puzzle that students might come across. I want you to kind of tell me what you see, and also maybe tell me what you think we might be asked to do, something that maybe we should try. Some of you have also hit on the fact that there are no directions. So what do you see? What do you think maybe we should be doing? Yeah, Rebecca, which way should Gigi turn? Okay. So something to do with Gigi turning. So those of you that aren't familiar, this is Gigi, our penguin. Gigi is in all of the ST Math puzzles, and the goal is to get Gigi across the screen, which you'll see how that plays out in some games. Match the direction, choose the direction that the penguin turns, quarter turns. Okay, great. So there's some sort of, we know that just by looking at this, we can tell that something needs to happen in terms of the way that Gigi's facing. There's arrows, so directionality. So then what I do is I move my mouse around on the screen and I just see what reacts. Okay. So the only thing that really reacts when I hover my mouse around the screen are these two little buttons down here. Okay. And I see one question mark in the middle, and I'm not really sure, the question mark doesn't react. So what do you think I should try? Type it into the chat. Okay, a couple people saying left. So far, everybody's saying left. Okay, so this brings us to a point where all kids get, it's right before they select something, and we really want to encourage kids to think about what they're about to do and make a little bit of a prediction. So what do you think is going to happen? I am going to go ahead and click on the left one and see what happens, but I want to first visualize what I think might happen. So just take a minute, visualize yourself, and then here I go. I'm going to click it, and let's carefully watch what happens. Okay, so you all saw that. So it looks like Gigi made it across the screen, so we were able to complete that puzzle. And we saw that when we clicked on the arrow on the left, it moved into the question mark space, and Gigi also turned that direction that the arrow indicated. Okay, so now same thing, but I'm seeing something different. Again, only these two arrows down below are the ones that react. What do you think I should try? Which one do you think I should try? So most people are saying right. Got one left, pointing down. Okay, left. One suggestion to try the wrong one. Which is that? Okay, so I see both left and right. I'm gonna go ahead and choose the left one. And again, before I click it, I want you to just visualize what you think is going to happen and then watch the animation to see what happens. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna choose the one on the left. Okay, interesting. So Gigi was not able to make it across the screen. However, I did get some feedback, right? By clicking on this one on the left, Gigi still turned in that direction. Even though Gigi didn't make it across the screen, I now understand what this arrow does, right? So now I know, okay, let's try the one on the right. And again, I'm gonna kind of make a prediction based on what I saw the feedback to be for the one on the left, and then I'm gonna try this. All right, so we got it. How about this one? What do we think? Okay, couple rights, clockwise, right? Okay, all right, I'm gonna try the one on the right, make a little bit of a prediction about what you think is going to happen, and here we go. All right, great. So one thing I want to point out about this puzzle is that this one really deals with spatial temporal reasoning. And spatial temporal reasoning is what the ST stands for in ST math. And spatial temporal reasoning is the ability to move objects through space and time. It's super important for mathematical proficiency. It's been linked to mathematical proficiency, and it's really important for problem solving. So just like you're trying, you might try to organize your spice rack or fit a bunch of groceries into your car or whatever it might be, spatial temporal reasoning is part of our everyday life, and it's also how we want kids to connect to math because it is so connected to problem solving. So this puzzle deals heavily with spatial temporal reasoning. And I'm going to show you how this puzzle might progress. So that was level 1. And now we're on level 2. Or I'm sorry, level 3. What do you think this puzzle needs us to do? And Karen, great question. This puzzle actually appears in several grade levels. So what do you think this one asks us to do? What do you think we need to do? Okay, still, yep, maybe not sure. Choose 2 steps, go and return. Okay, yeah, so a couple of people also said they're not sure what to do. And the reality is there are no directions on the screen, right? The only way we're going to solve ST math puzzles is by trying something and by watching the feedback. So what's so brilliant about ST math puzzles is that the feedback actually explains the puzzle. And if we're careful and we watch the feedback, it will give us the key to unlock the puzzle. So I'm going to pick 2. I'm going to choose, anybody want to suggest 2 arrows to choose? Or shall I just pick? All right, I'm just going to pick. I'm going to pick 1 and 3. Okay, so it's Gigi doesn't move. I have to choose both. Okay, so that feedback is helping me. What did you all learn from the feedback? What do you think we should do? 1, 2, third and fourth, up arrow, then arrow facing right, okay? So let's try 2 and 4. Actually, we'll try 3 and 4. Let's try 3 and 4. So make sort of a movie in your mind about what you think might happen, and I'm going to try. Okay, Pamela may ask the question, why are 2 steps necessary? Great question, Pamela. Gigi was facing the way that Gigi needed to face at the beginning, right? But the puzzle required us to do something. So we had to make it work to get Gigi back in that original position, right? So how about this one? And then we'll move on. But I just want people to get kind of an idea of how these progress. So what do you think about this puzzle now? So Santiago says 3 and then 2. So does Janice. And one question in the chat, do more than one choice work? Great noticing, yes. So oftentimes there are multiple solutions to ST Math puzzles. Not always, but often. And that's because we all think differently. And especially for puzzles like this, there can be more than one solution. All right, we've got 2, 4, 2, 3. Okay, so what's interesting is I see some that suggest 2, 3, and some that suggest 3, 2. And I wonder if they would both work. What do you think? Do you think 3, 2 would work the same as 2, 3? Type yes or no into the chat. Polly says no. Some say yes. No. Yes. Okay, we're kind of split. So let's try it. And I'm going to go into something called teacher mode, which you don't really need to know about right now. It's not very relevant for remote learning, but I'm just doing this so that I can try this puzzle multiple times without losing any Gigi tries. So I'm going to try 2 and then 3, okay? And then we'll try it the other way around. So 2, 3. Interesting. So 2, 3 did not work. Now I'm going to try 3, 2. 3, 2 did work. So why is that? I wonder if that might sort of recall order of operations for you, because what you do first then dictates what happens in the next step, right? So this spatial temporal reasoning, this puzzle can really apply to a lot of other bigger sort of mathematical concepts, but it's just very important that you see how the feedback in the puzzles informs your next step. So I'm going to jump back over here, and you'll see that eventually there becomes 3 steps necessary to get Gigi upright. So this puzzle progresses to that level. So just like we experienced in that game, all of our ST Math games are designed in that same way. The objective is to get Gigi the penguin across the screen. But in order to do that, we have to notice, predict, analyze, and connect. So what does that mean? That means we first have to sort of take stock of what's on the screen, observe, see, just kind of see what we could possibly click on. Then we make a prediction. What do we think will happen when we click on that? And then if we take an action, we then need to analyze that feedback that comes in from the puzzle and then make a connection to then try something new or onto a new puzzle. So this cycle is a really foundational way that we all learn, right? I have a 1-year-old, she's learning to walk. It's literally the exact same cycle, right? She's noticing her surroundings, she's noticing how her body moves, she's making a prediction, she's trying something based on the feedback that she gets. She's then trying something different. She's doing the same thing over again. So it's really a foundational, it's kind of just trial and error, right? And building this into how kids are learning math is a really powerful way to get them to connect to the concepts because they are comfortable with this type of learning. And yes, it can be frustrating, but they are, you know, they're young learners and they're used to this way of learning. You know, when they go in to play video games, this is how they play video games. They try something, they see what the feedback is on the screen, and then they try something new. So now that you understand how the games work, I want to introduce you to our overall approach to teaching math. So ST Math really focuses on the visuals. So we really want to build the foundational concepts with interactive spatial temporal models. And once those concepts are solid, we then begin to introduce the language of math. So this is an example of the images on a puzzle that we're actually going to take a look at these concepts in a minute. But what do you think? Type into the chat what you think this puzzle is about. What do you think students are being asked to find out in this puzzle? First answer, number of legs. Okay, several people. You're hitting it right on the hitting the nail on the head. How many legs? And most of you probably looked at the dotted lines on the legs and realized that means kind of they're missing, right? And we need to figure out how many there are. So ST Math builds in those visual hints to help kids figure out what they're supposed to do. Now, some people are already tying that into the mathematical concepts. So we see addition, multiplication, maybe skip counting, great. And what's really wonderful about our visuals is that if you imagine this is a third grade objective, we might have students, you know, maybe that are still kind of barely getting their conservation of number, right? So maybe they need to count to solve this puzzle. Maybe we have some kids that are skip counting, so they can skip count to solve this puzzle. Maybe we have some kids that already jump to the ideas of multiplication. So these visuals allow access to all students, and it really allows even gifted students to attach and connect different mathematical ideas to our puzzles. So as this puzzle begins, it's very visual, right? And as it moves up in the levels, we begin to replace some of the visuals with numbers or mathematical language. And eventually we introduce mathematical symbols until as the levels progress and as the objective progresses, it becomes purely symbolic. And then students now have a deep conceptual understanding of what this actually means. So we're going to take a look at that, but also I want you to know that at the beginning and end of objectives for grades 2 and up, students take a pre-quiz and a post-quiz. And the pre-quiz and the post-quiz look like this. They look like your traditional math questions. But what we hope and what we find is that students are able to see from the beginning and understand the visuals so that by the time they get to the post-quiz, which looks like this, they've connected that deep conceptual understanding to the math. So we're going to now take a look at what the student experience is as they go through an objective. Let me just move this here. So when students log into ST Math, they see these objective cones. So there are about 18 to 25 objectives for each grade level. And when they haven't been played, they're gray. So we ask students to play the gray. And students also have only one option unless they're in middle school, which I'll talk about in a minute. But students just play the next available objective, game, puzzle that they're on. So they don't have to choose anything. They just have to make sure that they're clicking on what's gray. So I want you to know too that when students then enter into an objective, they don't see everything that we're seeing here. I'm entering in what's called test drive with open access, so I can see everything. But what students will see first is just their pre-quiz if they're in grades 2 and up. If they're in K or 1, they'll just see the first game. So these are games, and they'll only see the number, they'll only see either what they've completed or what they are working on. They won't see this full staircase. So I'm going to jump into this first game and show you what the very beginning of this objective looks like. Now, again, remember, this is an objective. It's called multiplication concepts. This is a 3rd grade objective. So the very first game, the very first level looks like this. So we see shoes, and we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 shoes. And then over here, we see some dogs. And I see that as I move my mouse over the dogs, they light up. And I guess I'm going to need to click on some number of dogs. So what do you think I should click? I'm going to take a look in the chat. Brandy says 3, Denise says 4, 3. Okay, I see most 3, so I'm going to click 3. And again, before I click it, I want you to make a prediction about what's going to happen. And then let's see if that matches. Okay. So that worked for that one. Now, what do I see here? So now I see, okay, robots. These robots have 1, 2, 3 legs on each robot. And I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 shoes. What do you think I should click here? Okay, 3 robots. Most people are saying 3. Okay. So I'm going to click not 3. I'm going to click 5. And let's see what happens when I click 5. Here we go. So you see the feedback. There are these 2 extra robots that we didn't have shoes for. So that's the feedback that students get that then help them realize, okay, I had 2 too many robots. I only need 3. Okay, so this is the first level of the first game. As the objective goes on, you'll see that it builds upon these ideas. So now we have a very similar looking puzzle. We've got shoes, we see a number 2, and then a missing box. And let's see, okay, so what is active when I move my mouse are these things up here. What do you think I should choose for this one? Ostrich. We see a lot of ostriches. Okay, so I'm going to choose the ostrich. Let's see what happens. So you see the visuals are then shown, similar to that first puzzle, but we're connecting that mathematical language. And now, as we get to the end of the objective, we now proceed to purely mathematical language. But what we have is now the sort of deep conceptual understanding that what we're looking at here are 8 objects that each have 6 legs. And so what is the mathematical expression that fits for that? So I just wanted to sort of share with you what the progression looks like for students as they go through this objective and how we get them from that purely visual point to that more sort of traditional mathematics. Okay, so how do students log in? So all students are going to access STMath via Clever. So they just navigate to the clever.com/in/OUSD, and they can either use a badge or their login with Google. And then when they get into their Clever portal, there's an STMath icon, and they just click on that icon. When they log into STMath, they are taken directly to the very first objective that they have not completed yet. So it's not always obviously going to be multiplication concepts, but this is what their screen looks like, and we just need to tell them to play the gray. So again, they're playing the things that they haven't played, which are going to be gray. The things that have been completed will turn green. So we don't want them to go back and play the green unless we're instructing them to go back and play. And that's something that if we feel like they need more practice, we can ask them to do. Now, I want to show you what the middle school experience looks like just for a brief moment. I saw a question earlier about the showing middle school content, and what I'll do is I'll share with you how you can go explore the content yourself. I'm not going to go into middle school content right now, but I will tell you that the middle school experience is slightly different than the K-5 experience. So when middle school students log in, they have two options. They have a class path and a personalized path. What you want to instruct your middle school students to do is to, on this side of the screen, there will be a button for their assessment, their pre-assessment. And we want them to go in, take their pre-assessment, and then the program will assign them a personalized path of learning based on their assessment. So their personalized path will be intervention content. So it goes all down through the grade levels, and we find the holes that students might have, and we then put that into their personalized path. So this, again, is their intervention content. So it's based on the assessment that they take at the beginning. Their class path is grade level content. So you can instruct them to play either their class path or their personalized path, okay? Again, they need to take that assessment the first time that they log in to get a personalized path. So this then, once they choose one of the paths, they will see similarly an objective cone, and they'll just go in and play. Now, this is a very important point. It's very important that students log out of STMath correctly, okay? It's tempting for many students to just either X out of Clever or just shut their computer down or close up their Chromebook, whatever they're working on. They need to they need to exit STMath correctly, okay? We have a letter that you will be able to send home to your students that has these instructions, but I just want you all to make sure you know that it's very important. And the way that they log out is they click these arrows that are in the bottom left corner until they get to a screen that looks like this. So this screen is today's accomplishment screen, and it shows what they worked on. Now I'm going to show you in a minute some resources that we have that require students to write down what they do each day. And that information is available on their today's accomplishment screen. So one thing that I like to tell teachers is if you require your students to record what is on their today's accomplishment screen, it kind of guarantees that they get there so we know that they're most likely logging out correctly. So once they get to this today's accomplishment screen, they have to click this red X, okay? So it's not enough to just get to this blue screen. They have to click this red X. And what happens if they don't log out properly is their progress does not update onto our reports. So it looks like they're not progressing. They might be asked to continue to play the same games. So it causes some sort of issues there with saving progress. The good news is that if they're playing on the same device and they go in and then they log out correctly, usually that fixes the problem and it catches them up to where they need to be. but it's just really important that you stress to them that they need to log out correctly. And also, the new version of ST Math has a much simpler logout procedure, and it saves progress automatically. So just know that that's coming, and we have realized that this is a bit of a cumbersome way to ask kids to log out, but for now, just make sure that you tell them to log out correctly. Okay, so let's see what teachers have available. So you also can log into ST Math through Clever. So you go into Clever, from your Clever portal, choose ST Math, and then you are logged into what's called your GG console. You also can access your GG console from our website, stmath.com. If you know your username and password, you can also have those reset from that website, but it's also just as easy to just go in through Clever. So this is what you see. This is your class card. So here is where you see, this is your class. This is the number of students that are in your class. This is the average progress. These are the number of students that have what are called alerts. And then we have a couple of other things. So when you click into your ST Math class, you will want to make sure that you've got your roster set up correctly. So actually, you don't need to make sure it's set up. You just want to check that all your students are there. So your classes are automatically rostered via Clever. So you never want to, you never need to like add a student or anything. You just need, if something's incorrect, you just need to let us know. And then that's something that we would fix on the back end. So across the top, you'll see you have 4 tabs. You have roster, reports, curriculum, and alerts. So curriculum, this tab is the place where you can really control what the order in which students experience the ST Math content. So you'll see also here, there are 2 columns, home and school. Just so you know, because your students log in through Clever, it's as if they're logging in at school. So as long as the school button is highlighted, they should have access. So you don't need to worry about assigning home, but if you want to just be sure, you can make sure that they're all illuminated, and then you'll know that all of the content is accessible. Always also, if you want to unassign something or assign it, make sure you hit the save button. So on this curriculum tab, you can also reorder your content. So students will work on content from the top down, and you just drag and drop to reorder it. This would be useful if you know that, we know that we're maybe, I don't know, 3/4 of the way through a school year here. So you might want to move certain content up to the top because you maybe didn't cover it, or you're covering it in your regular curriculum and you want to make sure that they're practicing it in ST Math. So this is where you would do that. If you want to find out what's in an objective, like I did with that previous multiplication objective, you can click on the objective and then click Test Drive. So Test Drive takes you into the objective. What you want to make sure you do is you click Open Access. So when you click Open Access, that means you can see everything just like I did. If you choose to play as a student would play, you will only see the first thing available, and you'll have to do that before you can see the next one. So you're really playing as a student. So the other thing I want to point out is that we also have optional objectives. So your optional objectives can be dragged into your assigned objectives. So you can, make sure that if there's something extra and you're worried that students might fly through whatever you've assigned them, you can assign them optional objectives. The other thing to know is that if you reorder the curriculum while students are working, it doesn't lose their progress. They'll just be forced into whatever you put at the top. They'll be forced into that next. And then whenever they finish that, they'll go back to whatever they were working on before at the same point. So it doesn't lose their progress. Okay, so we also want to talk just a minute about how you might differentiate if you have students that maybe need a different grade level, or if you have certain kids that you want to work on certain things. So I did glance at the chat a minute ago and saw that there was a question about what grade level students will be working at. So by default, they'll be working on the content that they're assigned in school. So whatever they are, if they're second graders, they'll be starting off with second grade content. Now, if you have some students that, let's say, need to work more at a first grade level, you can do that. You can change their curriculum. And the way that you would do that is through these steps. So the first thing you would do is you would add a class. So down here at the bottom, there's add class. And you would choose the grade level that you would want it to be at. So if you could choose first grade, you could choose kindergarten, you could choose third grade. You choose the correct school year. It usually defaults to group 1. So unless you're creating another class at the same grade level, then you would want it to be group 2. You can choose quiz language. Then you go back into your original class, find the student that you want to move, and then click transfer. And this is where you would choose that second group that you just created, that second class, and you would transfer the student into that destination class. Then you would have sort of, here's an example of what your screen might look like if you had created additional groups, okay? So in your teacher console, you also have access to reports. So we're not going to go too deeply into reports right now, but just know that they're there and you can kind of take a look. I'm going to be working with Kelleth and sort of gathering some input from you all about what you might want to learn next time, and we can spend some time going through some of the reports at another time. But I also want to point you in the direction of some resources that you have if you want to get ahead and kind of learn about some of these things like reports. So from your console, we have a button down here that says STM Central. STM Central is our resource webpage. So any question that you might have, we've got the answers on STM Central. So I also have it open over here. And what I want to show you is, so we have, for example, an entire section about teacher screens and reports if you wanted to go look at what are the reports that are available. So again, we access this from STM Central, from this button. Then you're on a screen like this, and you can just hit in the search feature. You can just type in reports and that'll take you there. So we also have resources for getting started. So you might be saying, well, how do I get started with my students? One thing that you could do is show them a video on a Zoom call. So I know many of you are probably having Zoom calls with your students. So in the getting started section, we have a video. So here is this getting started. You would open up step 2. So I'm sorry, step 1. So step 1, learn about ST Math. And this is a video that you can show your students. We have one for K through 2, and we have 1 through 3 for 6. You can also show 3 through 6. You can show that to 6th, 7th, or 8th graders too. There's no harm in that. And so it plays. And I don't think you can hear my audio, but this just plays and explains what ST Math is. So on our ST Math Central site for teachers, we also have some tips about teaching your students remotely. And over here on the right side, you'll see a button for printables. So this is where you can find resources to kind of keep track of what your students are doing. So you'll see there are accomplishments logs. So you could ask your students to record every time they play ST Math. This is a little progress. Sort of, you could have kids color it. You could have them write the date. This is for how far they get in the curriculum. We also have journal pages. So on ST Math Central, you can have students take these journal pages and reflect on what their learning is. They can record their pre-quiz, their post-quiz. We have some specifically for middle schoolers. And this one I really like is a weekly math journal. So I know maybe having kind of like a nightly thing is difficult right now. I know that we're all still figuring out what we can ask students to do, but a weekly journal seems to me doable. So each day after playing ST Math, they would just fill in one of these boxes. So they would type or write the name of the game that they played, say what they learned, or maybe they could draw a picture about the puzzle that they were stumped on this week, whatever. So these resources will all be available on that internal site. I'll post a link for you in the, I'll show you the link in a minute, but Kelleth has that information as well. So some of you might be saying, my students are going to get stuck. Well, that definitely happens. And obviously it would be, great to be able to be right there with your student and encouraging them to watch the animation and working through the puzzles with them. But we know that that's not the reality right now. So what we suggest is giving these facilitating questions to students so they can really be guided to watch the animation and make those connections. So we have these resources available as well, both in English and in Spanish. You can have them journal about when they get stuck. They can draw their answers, draw what they try. And then of course, encourage them always to use pencil, paper, and manipulatives if they have them, or some sort of counting things or grouping materials if they have them. So again, we have self-guided courses on our ST Math Central, but we think that this will be enough to get you started. And our support team is also available to always answer questions as you're working with ST Math. So I'm going to stop us there and sort of open it up for questions. What questions do you have?
So Mead, we might have also a couple of open questions on, looks like we've got
Sure.
6 open questions on in the Q&A.
Great. Okay, so let's see. So Pamela, well, webinar is almost over, so we can talk offline also about the new version because I know you guys are on the beta version. I don't know if anybody's on with 8th, 9th, or 10th graders. Maybe somebody could jump in. Okay. I'm not sure about the questions. Alyssa, when you say objective, do you mean those things? So objectives are the questions. Oh, looks like she's handling that question. Also, feel free to unmute. I don't know, actually, Kelly, is that even within their power?
Yeah, they're actually not able to do that.
Okay.
I think one really relevant question that I've seen asked is about just if it's how do students access from different devices if they don't have a Chromebook?
Yes. So let's go to this. So we have this letter, this Using ST Math at Home letter that will be available on the internal site for you all as well. This is something that you can send home to parents. It's in Spanish and in English. And what it has is instructions for either tablets or computers and sort of how do you do that. The tablets, you would need to download an app. but just know that you actually don't access it through the app. You access it through the Clever portal. So don't open the app. If your students are opening the app, they're not going to be able to get in. They need to go in through the Clever portal. And then, so these instructions are for your families and for your students to use at home on any device. And then we also have like parent resources that we'll be posting. And we also have just plenty of resources on our ST Math site. So we have resources for teachers, students, and parents. There are webinars that have been recorded about various like little topics, like assigning curriculum and things like that, reports. And then we also have information for families. So your kid is new to ST Math, now what? How do families support ST Math? So that is also available on our website. What other questions do we have here? Okay, is ST Math available in Spanish? So for the quizzes can be, yes, you can choose the language of the quizzes to be in Spanish. But because it is not heavily reliant on language, it's really accessible for students that English is not their first language. What other questions do we have here? Caliph, did you catch any others that?
I think those are the main ones, but I do want to point out, since we're near the end of time and I want to respect everyone's time, that we will be checking the questions and posting answers to some of the questions that are relevant to everyone on Teacher Central on the website. And I did also this resource that Mead has up on her screen. I did already post that during the webinar. So if you go to Teacher Central, and I just put the link in there to the Teacher Central ST Math webpage that's up there, and there are other resources there as well.
Great. And I would just like to put a plug in also for our support line. Both Alyssa and I take shifts weekly on our support line, and we have some dedicated support team members too. And a bunch of people on our team are always on the support calls. So feel free to call or email our support line, and somebody can always help you, walk you through anything or talk to you about any of these topics too.
Great. So I just want to, since we are at 12 o'clock, I just want to extend a big thank you to Mead and Alyssa, not only for offering this webinar today and offering us support, but just want to point out that ST Math has opened up ST Math for all K through 8 students during the closure. So we're very, very appreciative of that. So just want to say thank you, Mead and Alyssa.
Well, of course, it definitely supports our mission, and we want this time to be a productive use of time for all students and teachers too.
So thank you to all the participants today. If you joined in, really appreciate it. Thank you for the thank yous that you're putting in there. So stay safe, stay healthy. We're about to log off, and Mead and Alyssa, I can stay on with you for a couple of moments just to wrap up with you.
That sounds good.
But we're going to officially end the webinar here.
Thank you all.
Yeah, have a great day.
Yes, thank you so much.